Hey, good morning, everyone. We had quite the snowstorm yesterday. Cows were hungry for sure. When I got home this morning, I got out of there late and they had been mooing and yelling at my significant other in the house. So she was on her way out, and we threw them a couple bales this morning. And I'm gonna throw another bale right now because, as you can see, they cleaned up what we gave them this morning already pretty quick, and they're standing over here kind of picking up some of the scraps. All right, buddy. So let's toss them another bale, and I'm gonna get them some of those protein cubes too, just for some energy. I had everything put away in the barn just so I could move snow and not have to work around any vehicles. So it makes it a little tight working in here. So on a day like today, I'm just gonna grab 4 of these protein tubs. These are those 30% protein tubs that I'll put out this time of year that have already been used up. Obviously, we didn't go through all 4 this year. I'd say we go through maybe 1.5 a year, but I like to keep these pans because they make good feeders for those cubes, especially this time of year. When the snow's really deep, you throw those cubes on the ground, they disappear in the snow, and then the cows have trouble finding them. I'm sorry about the camera. Still just working with my phone here. But those pans also make good oil. Catch pans for oil. Stuff like that, so I always keep them. So we're gonna give them each a little bit more cubes than normal. Normally, I'd say each pan has about half this amount in it, but they kind of got their butts kicked yesterday in the weather, and it's gonna be really cold tonight. So a little more won't hurt them. Plus, I'll show you here in a minute the hay I've been feeding already, and we'll give another bale. It's pretty stemmy stuff, so there's not a lot of protein in it. So yeah, extra protein, extra energy right now because it was it was raining for a bit the other morning. What is she doing? It was raining a bit the other morning when I left before the snow started. And it actually was about 32 degrees for the first couple hours of the snowstorm. So I know the cows got wet. Yeah, they got wet, wet hair coats. So that makes it a little tougher for them to stay warm. And the stuff was pretty heavy and slushy. What's up, Mama? You don't want any of your cubes? And then the wind picked up last night. And definitely dropped the temperature down. It was pretty windy and pretty cold. I think it was -1 actual temp when I woke up this morning. And with that wind chill, it was about -15. So they were definitely wet and cold. The issue I had yesterday was obviously being on shift. I worked 24 hours. I threw out 2 50-pound bales for them yesterday morning, but the snow was starting about then, so I assumed they were able to get through most of that before the snow covered it up. And then I had my dad run out here yesterday afternoon when we had kind of a little break in the snow, and he threw out another 50-pound bale just to give him something else to eat. But I guarantee you, with how quickly the snow was falling and how heavy and wet it was, because it was right at that 32 degrees, that hay probably got covered up and iced over pretty quick. So they probably didn't get as much as they should have yesterday. And actually, if you look up by the house, if you look out into the pasture, you can see all their little, well, might be able to see some of it here. You can see all their tracks out there going to where I've been feeding hay over the last week or so, the various piles they had. So they knew where there might be some hay still on the ground. They could sniff it out. Cows have a great sense of smell. So I'm sure they were walking around this morning before I got home, and probably even yesterday, looking for that old stuff to eat. Dumped these carts. I moved a bunch of hay down from the lot. In fact, I probably won't even dump it. Just let it eat right out of the cart. Man, they're picky. I don't know what she's wandering around looking for, but she's not happy, whatever it is. So this is all stuff I swept up. It's kind of dusty and junky, but they like eating it. And then we're getting close to feeding our last couple first cutting bales that I bought. So the stuff that's really stemmy. Actually, Monday will be January 17th, and that starts the official third trimester for the 3 of these girls. Well, 2 of the girls, 46 right in front of me here, who's fighting for some protein cubes. She's about 30 to 40 days behind the other 2, so she won't actually start till this time in February. So she's got about another 30 days before she starts her last trimester. She's going to be getting better hay just by proxy. Sorry about that. Phone kept shutting down because it was too cold. I think where I left off this morning, I was talking about third trimester hay. And when I load this hay up, I make a note where each cutting is going. So as you can see, we started down on the far end there. That was all first cutting stuff. And that's not all fed out. You might be able to see it underneath in that stall. I've got 20 bales left of that first cutting stuff. I have that staged down low because I'm actually going to have someone feeding for me for a couple, 3-4 weeks. So I wanted to have as much of that hay down on ground level as I could. But then over here was all the second cutting stuff that I bought. And as you can see, I started digging into that. I'm actually going to feed a second cutting bale tonight. And then our third cutting is kind of right there in the middle, and which is going to be the higher protein and higher energy, which is, you know, what they're going to need for their third trimester. I think I can feed 2 bales a day of that, and then 1 bale of this second cutting stuff. And that's about where we're at. So 3 bales a day. I'm over my about 110 pounds, which is what I said at the beginning of the season that I was going to be feeding. That was 3% of their body weight, 110 pounds. I'm getting kind of over that a little bit, but I spent a few days actually trying to pull flakes out and measure hay and weigh it all out just to get roughly 110. And it just wasn't working out very well for me. It was making a mess. It was pretty difficult. It was taking a lot of extra time. And one thing I was noticing too is they were leaving very little on the ground. I don't know. I'll have to go over my numbers again. I suppose it's possible that I underestimated their weight. Obviously, I only really had the 3 girls. I only had their latest body weight from when they went in to get preg checked. I think it was November. So it really wasn't the end of the season. So they've gained a little bit of weight since then. I didn't have the red steer there. I didn't have him weighed when he was in. So I was kind of guessing on his weight. So it's possible that I underestimated the amount of hay that they were going to need every single day. And again, that 3% was just for them to maintain. We've had some wet weather, some snow, some rain, some ice. And then we've had some really mild days as well. So it's kind of been all over the board. You know, my main goal obviously is to keep them growing that calf inside of them so that calf can be as healthy as it can be, especially getting into third trimester. Like I've said before, 70 to 80% of that calf's growth happens in the last 3 months of gestation. So that's when the cows are going to need maximum energy, maximum protein, and excess feed, so they are not struggling. So we're going to try taking the Ranger down there today. I actually had the tractor out earlier, and because we had all that rain and kind of those mild temperatures before the snow came, the snow's pretty good insulator right now, and it's actually pretty soft. The ground's pretty soft underneath, so I was kind of digging up the sod a little bit. So we'll take the Ranger. We're gonna throw out a new bedding bale just because I spent a lot of time in that shed yesterday during the snowstorm. So it's pretty messy. We're going to feed one of those second cutting bales. And then I also have a really junky first cutting bale in there that has a lot of mold in it. I'm not sure how it got moldy, why it got moldy, but I could smell it. The minute I uncovered that one in the pile, you could smell that mold. It was pretty strong. So I'm actually going to take that down there. The cows aren't going to touch it because it's so gross, but I figure instead of burning it or just throwing it down by the creek, I might as well spread it out on the pasture and kind of put down some good carbon. So hopefully the cows follow me down. Man, she's looking wide. Look at her. Yeah, you're looking big too, buddy. What, do you got twins in there? You're like 40 days behind the other two. Ooh, she's looking wide. That's good. And I know they've been eating all day, but man, she looks like a dang balloon. That's good stuff. All right, let's get some bales out. Again, getting in that third trimester, I'm not too worried about overfeeding them. And then obviously if I leave stuff on the ground, if they don't eat everything and they're leaving hay on the ground, that's just going to help grow grass, this spring. So I'm not too concerned with overfeeding them. And, I obviously have enough hay. I think I did the math on everything I have left. If I feed 3 bales a day, I'll have hay all the way up until April 28th. April 15th was the latest we've ever been before we started grazing again. And that was just because I was waiting as late as possible to turn them out because I wanted as much grass growth as I could get before I turned them out. This year, having the 2 leased properties, I think I'm going to be turning them out as soon as I can just because we have way too much grass this year than we do cows. So you don't want to graze it too early, obviously, because then you're going to set the grass back and that'll just harm it over time and it'll slow the regrowth down for the rest of the season. But if I get a good 8 to 10 inches on it, in the past I waited even a little bit later than that before I turned them out. But this year I think even 7, 8 inches I'm going to go ahead and turn them out onto that pasture just because, like I said, we're going to have a lot of grass this year and not very many cows. See if I can zoom in. See some deer over there. Everyone was looking for food last night. I've got some trail cameras set up back in the timber, and we had a lot of action last night. Deer and everyone coming through. Some coyotes, some bobcat. Everyone was looking for something to eat. It was relentless. Started snowing it was snowing in the morning when I left. Took a little bit of a break, and then about 1 p.m. it sounds like it just came down and it didn't stop until about 2 o'clock this morning. So I'd say we probably ended up with about 8 inches. They're going to have a couple weeks out on pasture grazing spring grass before they calve, especially number 46 right here. She's not due until the very end of April. I think actually first week of May is when she's due. So she's going to have a good 20 to 30 days worth of grazing spring grass before she calves. So she's going to have no problem having a great body condition, putting on lots of extra weight, getting lots of good milk ready, and then raising a really healthy calf. The other two, this dun one here in front of me, and then this small first calf heifer, they're going to be the second week of April is when they're scheduled to calve. So we'll feed this third cutting stuff right up until they're grazing. Those last couple weeks are pretty important putting on the extra weight and then just getting lots of milk ready. So anyway, I'm gonna go spread that that junkie bale. I've got an area of the pasture that's kind of over by the fence line that definitely could use some stuff. So I'm gonna spread that out, and I will talk to you guys later. Definitely no better way to spend a Saturday night, in my opinion.